Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film Lost Highway, directed by David Lynch. For me, the three best Lynch films are Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire. Lost Highway feels like the first of the truly Lynchian films. It breaks narrative entirely, making it very different to Blue Velvet. It's not a story in any traditional sense. It's kind of a looping hallucination, a tale of guilt, denial and self-erasure. The film opens with Fred, played by Bill Pullman, a haunted, emotionally locked down man who begins receiving unmarked videotapes that show someone filming his home and then, chillingly, filming him and his wife Renee, played by Patricia Arquette, sleeping in their bed. These early sequences are among the most brilliantly constructed in all of Lynch's work, I think, not because they rely on conventional horror tropes, but because they induce a profound sense of unease through banality corrupted. The videotapes, the empty corridors, the almost unbearably slow encroachment of dread. This is terror as suffocation, not shock. The meeting with the mystery man at a party remains one of Lynch's great set pieces, a scene so wrong in its emotional register that it leaves the viewer really destabilised. We've met before, haven't we? I'm at your house right now. When Fred calls home and hears the mystery man's voice on the other end of the line, while the man stands in front of him, the boundary between dream, reality and madness collapses. It's a moment that defines Lynch's art, horror from within, as a rupture in the fabric of normality, not as some kind of external invasion. This is Lynch at his very best. Lost Highway, like Mulholland Drive, is a film that folds back on itself. After Fred is arrested for Renee's murder, reality fractures. In a beautifully minimal transition, the prison cell wall simply opens like a curtain and Fred becomes Pete, a younger man living in a different life. This is a real WTF moment. There's no explanation. Time loops. Identities dissolve. Patricia Arquette plays two roles, Renee, the emotionally detached wife, and Alice, the hypersexualized fantasy woman. This dual casting, dark-haired Renee, blonde Alice, it's not subtle. It perhaps externalizes Fred's psychological split, the cold, inaccessible woman he killed, the eroticized fantasy woman he can never possess. Like Dorothy Valens in Blue Velvet, Arquette's character exists primarily through the lens of male guilt and desire. But Lost Highway is more self-aware about this construction. These women are not real even within the world of the film. There is, however, a valid criticism to be made about the film's indulgence in the male gaze. Arquette is repeatedly sexualised and objectified. The film portrays her as a vessel for male longing and betrayal, and while this is thematically appropriate to Fred's fractured psyche, it is fair to ask whether Lynch needed to so thoroughly aesthetise her nudity and suffering to make the point. As in Blue Velvet, the boundary between critique and complicity becomes uncomfortably blurred, but this is what you get with Lynch. I do think that Lost Highway elevates Lynch's work beyond Blue Velvet. Its horror is not just situational, it's existential. Fred is not merely pursued by external forces, he's devoured from within by his own guilt and repression. The repetition of the mystery man at the end, mirroring the earlier encounter, is deeply satisfying, not because it provides answers, but because it completes the emotional architecture. The loop closes and Fred is trapped in his own unresolved nightmare. Structurally, Lost Highway is a so-called Mobius strip. It loops without beginning or end, folding Fred's futile attempts at self-reinvention back into the reality of his crime. The famous opening line, "Dick Laurent is dead," which Fred hears at the beginning and later delivers to himself, it's not a narrative clue to be solved. It's perhaps a symbol of how denial and guilt cannibalise time itself. Lost Highway is certainly not a perfect film. Its second half, with Pete and Alice's desert noir subplot, sometimes can feel a bit meandering, yet the emotional logic holds. Pete's fantasy can't sustain itself, just as Fred's can't. The collapse is inevitable. Lost Highway is perhaps a meditation on the impossibility of escape. It's not about guilt and punishment as such, it's about how guilt twists reality itself into a prison. It's about how the mind, desperate to flee the unbearable, only loops back into the same horror. It's a terrifying, hypnotic film, a looping journey of fear, lust and death. It doesn't explain itself, it doesn't resolve, it simply plays endlessly. This film is one of the all-time greats. I might say that it doesn't get better than this. I realise that Lost Highway probably has to be in my list of the greatest films of all times, but it does get better than this. Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire feel like more complete expressions of what Lost Highway begins. More haunting, more human, even more bewildering. Lynch is a true genius. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.